Okay, so 17th November was when we started, 16th, 17th. On 17th, when we were discussing, we discussed about our 5 days agenda. Okay, so that was our day 2. So on first day, we had a discussion on overview of this training program. Then on second day, we went through some of the basic concepts like who is a business analyst, what typically a BA will do on day-to-day basis, what are the skill sets that are required for you to do your role as BA. Now we move on to day 3. That is, we want to understand how the role of BA was created, how it has evolved over time, and is there any change when it comes to IT industry? That are you supposed to do anything different when it comes to the IT industry work? But before that, like I said, so for a quick recap of what we did on day 2, that was on Friday. Okay, so a business analyst basically acts as a liaison between the technical team and the client. So we looked at an example like a customer or client can come up with an idea of building a table reservation app for a given restaurant chain. Okay, so for building that app, you probably maybe they'll contact some IT organization that can do this work for them. So when it comes to an IT organization, what you do is you talk to the customer, get to know the people who can provide you more detail from the client side, then add details to the customer's idea. So whatever idea they have, that's at a very high level. So talk to them to gather more details around it, like what type of features they want to provide into it, what could be the business rules surrounding it for booking. Okay, for example, do you want a search bar, do you want a drop down, or people should be able to search the restaurant name by searching on the search bar. Now, as and when you gather more details, you document those details. Once the details are documented, you get it reviewed internally and with customer. But we are not going into those details as of now, but at a very high level. Then you work with architects to create a solution, pass on the solution and requirement document to your technical team. Okay, then we also looked at some of the day-to-day responsibilities that you undertake on daily basis. We also looked at some of the key items like when you go on for meetings, then how should you conduct your meetings when you have to perform your role as a business analyst, not just business analyst but in general as well. And also when you are sending out emails, how should you construct your email so that it gives you the better response. Okay, and then we also looked at another aspect that another quality of business analyst is that he or she is a team member or a team person, which doesn't take any decisions alone. Now at the end, we also looked at some of these skills like your learning skills, listening skills, interpersonal skills. Okay, and how do those skills they actually help you perform your day-to-day task. Okay, so far were you guys able to follow along with me? You have any questions?
Be a good Harsha.
Sure, so let's move on. Okay, and let's discuss about today's topic. So basically the background, that how this entire structure came into being. Okay, basically what has happened over time is our technology has evolved. Okay, if you go into past or think about how things used to happen like 20, 30 years ago, Probably most of them were, you would have heard this term like brick and mortar. So that is like the normal shops. Okay. So suppose if you have to buy a grocery, what would have happened is you would go out to a grocery store that would give you a decent amount of deal on the items that you buy. So you'll probably be going out there and buying. Now, what has happened is nowadays a lot of tech driven players have come up. There are a lot of applications that have come up and they offer you huge discounts. So now the incentive is to stay at home, use the application, and do your order. Okay. So what has evolved is earlier the technology was pretty expensive. Okay. So technology was expensive. Initially, whenever anything new comes up, it is usually expensive unless that becomes a norm for the society. So when you started with technology, what has happened is the storage was expensive. So you would have seen bigger images of, floppy disks that we initially started with, something called as for storing floppy disks. CDs have come, then pen drives, then hard disk. Things have become pretty normal over time. So technology was expensive. One of the part within technology was storage being expensive. Okay. So you obviously, if something is more expensive and if you spend too much money on trying to build a platform, then what will happen is you will try to get that money from your customers. So when you try to get money from customers, you will obviously make your product expensive. So there was not huge inclination towards using technology. Then what happened is, as the time passed, this technology became relatively cheaper. Technology became relatively cheaper, and along with it, one more thing happened. Okay, so not just it became cheaper, but it also became much more advanced. Now we are not just talking about desktop applications, we have internet. Okay. So with internet now you can browse through the content of what's happening in America, what's happening in the other countries, what's even happening around my city as well, which probably earlier I wasn't aware of. So now you have technology becoming cheaper, you have internet, and also technology upgrading itself. So now your technology keeps on upgrading. Nowadays, you keep hearing a lot about artificial intelligence, cloud, data science, those type of things. So our technology stack keeps on improving with every passing day. Now we are also talking about quantum computers coming up now, so that could be the next big thing. So technology in a nutshell, it keeps upgrading itself. While technology is upgrading itself, it is also becoming cheaper. Okay. So now a lot of startups that you see around you, or a lot of companies that you see, even old age companies also, they are now all a software driven companies. Okay. So they have a software in place which will help them sell products. So you think of any type of company, be it any bank, be it life insurance or health insurance company, anything that you can think of. Okay. Even grocery shopping, ordering foods. Okay. Everything has actually been driven by the software. There is a software at the core. Okay, you use that application. Okay. Software or application, they can be used interchangeably. So you have a software or application at the core which you use to do your or to achieve the objective. Suppose if you want to open a bank account, earlier you would have to go to the nearest bank, fill a form, apply, paste your photo, and whatever ID proof you need to take in, go with it, get a Xerox or a photocopy done for that ID proof, and submit it along with the form. And it will take few days for your bank account to get opened. Nowadays it's no longer the case. Okay, now we have features of video KYC plus Aadhaar being integrated into an API. So nowadays, just by staying at your home itself, you can open your bank account. So the idea is that technology keeps evolving. It keeps evolving, it keeps becoming cheaper, and with internet, you can reach out to a wide variety of people. Okay, so now a lot of companies or organizations, they want to go online. Okay, they want to do business online because they have understood that when you build an application, it's a cost effective way. You can, even though in the starting the cost is higher for building an application or a software, but eventually you don't have to spend a huge amount of money in upgrading your software. Okay, so the upgradation becomes relatively cheaper. Now when these things were happening, what happened was initially organizations thought that we have developers in place. Okay, so initially developers were handling the requests. Okay, so what the funda was very simple. You have to build a software. Customer will tell you what kind of software they need. Developers are the people who are going to write the code for the software. So developers are going to talk to customer, get the requirements, and be done with it. Okay, create a software. Now this particular model didn't last long. Okay, so sooner companies realized, or the organizations realized, that what developers are focused about is code. Okay, so developers want to know how to write code. They are least bothered about how to make my software user friendly. They are more worried about writing the code. Give me a requirement which I can translate into a code. If you want 10 features, I'll give you all the 10 features. But I don't care whether feature 1, feature 2, which should be given the higher priority. I will start building in the sequential manner. So they were more worried about code. So a developer was more focused about code and was less focused about the software aspects which actually attracts customer. So developer was less focused about your software being user friendly. Okay, prioritizing software. If client comes up with prioritizing the feature, if client gives you 10 requirements, you should know which requirement should go in first. So that is the first thing you do, that out of 10, which takes the higher priority, I'll work on that first. So they were least bothered about prioritizing which should go in first, which should go in second. They were more worried about, like I said, they were more worried about writing down code. They were more worried about improving their technical skill set. It's not anything wrong as such that developers are doing wrong, but it was wrong on the organization side to expect them to get the requirements and write code also. So obviously what happened is, now you have a software that is not user friendly. People find it difficult to use. So your customers become unhappy. If customers are unhappy, they will not likely use the application or the software. If customers are not using the application and software, what happens is your client will not make money. If your client does not make money, the client will not ask you to make another upgrades to the software. It is very simple. You just don't make software to make money. You want to ensure that your client makes money. Your client will only make money when people use their app. If I just have to make Amazon, just making an Amazon app only will not attract customers. You have to make your app user friendly. So when you make your app user friendly, a lot of people are going to buy that app or log into that app or use that app. When lot of people are using that app, there is a good chance that Amazon will make lot of money. If Amazon make lot of money, they will give you more IT work. Okay, if Amazon doesn't make lot of money, they won't give you a lot of IT work. In fact, they may stop or cut ties with you as well. So initially, organizations thought that building a software is more important than building it the right way. So they thought that building the software takes higher priority, or building the software is more important than building it the right way. Suppose if I give you a house and I have used all the high quality materials in it, best available paint, best available cement, so it's going to be a long lasting house, but I did not build it according to your choice. I did not give you a proper parking space. I did not have the rooms of appropriate sizes. Then chances are that no one is going to buy that house from me. Not only I have to build with higher quality, but I have to build it with the right way also. Right way is what can be termed as user friendly. What can people actually buy? So when organizations realized that because my focus is this, so I'm giving all my tasks to developers, which is leading to creating an applications that are less user friendly. So what they did was they did one more trick around it. That instead of asking developers to build it, let's have something called as systems analyst. For a moment, assume that systems analysts are someone who are more experienced than developer, but are not truly BA, who are kind of a lead for a developer. Now, even when you had systems analyst, there again, the problem was, even though they are not thinking about writing code because developers are going to write code, but again, these systems analysts are also technology inclined. So their main focus is, should I create a website using HTML, CSS, or should I create a website using some other advanced methods? Should I use Python for writing my programs, or should I use Java for writing programs? So they are more concerned or inclined towards what technology to use and how to create a solution. Again, they are not thinking from how to attract the user, how to make my software much more user friendly. So soon organizations, what they did was they changed their focus. So when the internet era was ramping up around mid 90s or late 90s, the organizations also soon changed their strategy. What they did was, not only we have to build the software, but we have to ensure that the software is built in the right way. That is, we are building a user friendly software. You have to build the software which is user friendly. Now, for building a software in a user friendly way, organizations realize that we need someone who can talk to the client, understand what the client wants, get more details from the client, like what exactly do you need, help clients prioritize. Okay, so get the idea first from the client. Once you get the idea, then get more details around those ideas. Okay. Now, once you get details, then help client prioritize these requests. Just don't want to build everything haphazardly. Even when you are going to build a house, you always start with the foundation. There's no way you can start with the ceiling directly. You have to build the foundation, then you have to raise the pillars, and then you think about getting to the ceiling part. So similarly, when you are building a software, you need to prioritize what should come first, then what should come second, then third, fourth, and so on. So help clients prioritize what should go in first. Now, when you do all these things, that is from the client perspective. Now, take all these things, document or create an artifact that can be understood and shared by technical team. So for that, they came up with the role of business analyst. Okay, they understood that our developers and system analysts directly interacting with client is helping us build the software, but the software is not of the right quality. When I say quality, it means being user friendly. So then they thought that all these activities which needs to be performed actually cannot be performed by these set of people because they don't have the right mindset. Now you can certainly train your developers, you can certainly train your system analysts to think like a business person, but then they would become business analysts. You cannot expect one person to wear multiple hats in their day-to-day life. Okay, so they can either work as a developer, they can either work as a business analyst at a given time. Now over years you can definitely say that I will work as developer for 4 years, then next 4 years I'll work as business analyst, then next 4 years I'll work as again a developer. So you can perform multiple roles at different stages of your career, but at a given time, in order to do justice with the work that you are doing, most probably you should be thinking about one particular domain itself. So that's how the role of business analyst came into picture. That someone who can talk to client, get the idea, get more details around the idea, help clients prioritize their requests, then document all these things in an artifact which can be understood and shared by your with your technical team. So far, any questions, guys?
No, Rahul.
Okay, so let me also quickly check the chat box if someone has posted any question there. Good, so no questions. We'll then move forward. The next thing that we want to touch upon is how the role of BA has evolved. So in tomorrow's class, we will look at some of the common terms that are used in IT industry. And once we go through these some of these common terms, then we will again go in detail, okay, how the BA performs their day-to-day job opportunities in waterfall versus agile. But for now, let me give you an overview of waterfall and agile, and at a very high level what BA was doing in waterfall versus agile, and that will actually cover our IT industry part, so that when we go in detail in future classes, we will actually have some basic idea about waterfall, and then we will build on to that idea, and we will build on the idea of agile that we are going to cover today. And in detail also, we will be covering how the role of BA changes between the two. So first of all, the question comes
Hi,
is,
Rahul. One quick question out of the topic. So, BA and FA both are same or it have different roles altogether? Functional analyst and business analyst.
the functional analyst is actually a specific domain, not domain, even kind of competing with your subject matter experts, SMEs. Okay.
Okay.
So functional analyst mainly comes in when you talk about a specific application. Suppose you as a business analyst started your career in banking domain and you built good expertise on savings bank account and current account. Okay, how the structure of savings account and current account work. So over time what can happen is you can transition into a functional analyst who knows in depth about savings account and current account.
Okay. Kind
So
of an
as a function,
SME then in that
exactly,
particular domain.
with that particular within domain, that particular subject that you are handling, you become an expert on it. And sometimes what happens is you become an expert with that specific client or customer of yours to whom you are serving. So when clients see that, you know, some person has gained substantial amount of knowledge about my current account and savings account with respect to the software that I am using, so they know ABCD about how current account and savings account work, and they also know how these business rules are actually used by my application, basically the software. So
Understood.
they make you functional analyst or SMEs in that domain, and then they try to retain you with that because they don't want to lose on to that knowledge. But the flip side is that when you become a functional analyst or an SME, you have to stick to that particular domain. It's not that you cannot learn anything new, but when you try to learn new things and try to move away, people will say that you are our key person, as if the entire company runs on your shoulder. So they'll try to convince you, don't go anywhere. You are our SME, you know everything. So that's the flip side, that it becomes difficult to then change your domain.
Understood. Thanks, Rahul.
Sure. So coming back to our topic of waterfall versus agile, so let's take our day-to-day example that probably most of us would have seen. Okay. So say there is an apartment. Okay. Now this apartment has different flats, or there will be number of flats. So what happens is, suppose you are in need of buying a house. Now, what you do is, based on your budget, you decide that let me go and buy a flat. So you start visiting the nearby apartments. Now, what could potentially happen is you will ask the builder that show me some of the things. Okay, I'm not getting into details of show me the property papers, validity or legality of it, but the other part which helps us deciding, that show me your designs, that how are you constructing these apartments, how many towers are there in your in this entire township. So show me that design for both apartments, how the overall apartment will look like, plus the individual flats. Do you have 2 BHK, 3 BHK, whatever be my requirement, based on that I can see different designs. Now, along with it, one more thing that can happen is what is the status of the construction. Suppose if the construction is almost complete or it is 100% complete, then you would see that there will be less number of buyers. Why? Because everyone wants to customize their home in one way or the other. Sometimes you may want to have an exhaust fan. Sometimes you don't want to have an exhaust fan, you want to have chimney. Sometimes you want to have a certain type of wall covering the kitchen and the hall. Sometimes you don't want any wall in between. You want to go with some modern architecture like a wooden work. So if you check upon the status of construction, whether it is complete or whether it is still in progress, because if things are in progress, you can make some customizations. Okay. So far with me, you want to buy a flat, a house. You start visiting the different builder site in nearby areas. You look at different apartments. You ask them, show me the design for apartment flats. What's the status of the construction, whether it is in progress or complete. Okay. Accordingly, you make a decision for yourself. Now, in software also, something similar happens. Now, suppose what we said was, if the construction is already complete, if the construction is already complete, then you will not be able to make any modifications. If any modifications are needed, what will happen? You will have to break the existing structure and then start with the new one. So that means additional cost of demolishing and then constructing again. Whereas for in progress items, you can give feedbacks and you can make slighter adjustment. I'm not saying completely new things, but at least you can make slighter adjustments. So same thing happens in IT industry as well. So in IT industry earlier, how we used to develop a software or build a software or an application was, we will tell the customer that here are your 10 requirements. Okay. requirement 1, requirement 2, and let's say requirement 3, and so on up to 10. Okay. Now what we will say to the customer is, in order to fulfill these 10 requirements, I will take 3 months of time. Now in these 3 months, what I will do is I will I will document my findings. I will start with the coding practice. I'll do testing of the software to ensure everything goes well. And then at the end of 3 months, I will tell you that the software is ready. So what used to happen is at the end of 3 months, you will tell the customer that the software is ready. This was your waterfall. You want to achieve everything in one go. You take a good amount of time for it. Once that time is done, your software should be ready. So that was one thing. Now what happens in agile is, again, the requirements remain same. You want to accomplish 10 requirements, but instead of you will still take as 3 months of time. I'm not saying that with agile time will drastically reduce, but what difference it happens is, in waterfall, you are trying to complete all 10 together, and at the end of 3 months, you show the customer your software, that this is how the software looks like with 3 requirements. But what happens in Agile is, you tell customer that for requirement 1, I have 10 requirements. For requirement 1, let's say I will take 2 weeks. So at the end of 2 weeks, your requirement 1 is ready. I can show you this requirement, or I can, technically we call it as demo. I can give you a demo of how the requirement 1 looks like. Suppose your requirement 1 is talking about uh, creating a user, registering user. Whenever we visit a website, what typically happens is we don't automatically log in. We have to register ourselves. Imagine if you use net banking, what happens is the first step is you register yourself for net banking. So consider your requirement 1 as registering yourself for net banking. Then what you say to the customer is that my requirement 2 will also take, let's say, near about 2 weeks, and my requirement 2 is now about login. So once I have registered, I will log in. First one is registration, and second one is login. So requirement 2 is also going to take 2 weeks. Now what will happen is at the end of 2 weeks, you already have requirement 1 which is ready. Now what you will do is you will add on top of it requirement 2. So you see what's happening over here is, you are instead of trying to build all the 10 requirements at the end of 3 months, what you do is you do it, or you build it phase by phase. So you take 2 weeks, get the requirement 1 ready. Then what you do is you take another 2 weeks, get the requirement 2 ready, and now you have something like this: requirement 1 and requirement 2 is ready. Now at the end of 3 months, what will happen is, let me now reverse it. At the end of 3 months, you will see something like this, that all my requirement 1, requirement 2, requirement 3 all are completed, and it took me nearly 3 months to complete it. So on the surface, if you ask that in waterfall also it took 3 months, in agile also it took 3 months. So what is the difference, other than that in waterfall you were trying to work on all these together parallelly, whereas in agile you are trying to work on it one at a time, smaller pieces of requirement. So that takes us to the second difference. One, you understood how the working works. This is only how the waterfall versus agile works. Okay, this is We are not discussing the advantages or disadvantages now, but in waterfall, you are trying to build everything in one go, whereas in agile, you take things one at a time. You have 10 requirements. You don't want to work on all 10 parallelly. You take first requirement, get it ready. You do the second, get it ready. Similarly, after 3 months, you will have all 10 ready. So far with me, guys, any questions on how these two models work?
No, Rahul. So the advantage of this is like in waterfall model, everything we will be presenting after 3 months. But here, requirement one will be presented once we are done to the stakeholder, so that if there are any modifications, we can go back and redo that. Is it?
Exactly. So that's the biggest advantage that we get. So we have something called as, technically speaking, shorter feedback cycle. So here in waterfall, when you are showing your customer the final product after 3 months, and suppose the customer doesn't like your product, they have some feedback that change the font size of the text, increase it from 10 to 12, and move the position. Like suppose if you have something like this, let me open. Suppose this is our regular Chrome browser, and suppose the customer says that I don't like the position of this search bar over here. Okay, why don't you move it from the middle to the top? And also, I don't want you to show the history of what the customer has seen. Just remove all of it. Now, if you get these feedback after 3 months, what will happen is you will go back to the customer and say that, boss, what you are going to tell me is additional requirement. So in waterfall, what we typically do is, after we show the customer what we have built, and if they have any feedback, we say that, boss, this is change in requirement. You'd never told us that you want this search bar to be at the top. Okay, so that's why we placed it in the middle. You should have told us that this should be placed at the top. So now you are giving us new requirement. So this means any change in requirement means we will take additional time. So now give us 2 more weeks or 1 month more time, and then we will incorporate your feedback.
The costing also
Okay.
adds to this, right? Along with the time.
Exactly. So the more time you take, that means the more hours you spend, the developer, tester, BA, everyone will have to work for longer duration, means it will add on to the costing part as well. Now in your agile, what happens is you get your requirement one ready over here. Let me copy this. You get your requirement one ready, and you show it to the customer that, hey, requirement one is ready. We are into 2 weeks. We started the development, we are done with, or we have completed 2 weeks, we have first requirement ready. Why don't you take a look at it and tell me, are we on track, are we building everything correctly or not? So if customer gives you a feedback at this juncture, okay, instead of giving you a feedback after 3 months, if customer gives you a feedback now, what will you do is you will incorporate their feedback and try to deliver it along with requirement 2. Okay, so you take feedback on a regular basis, on a shorter cycle. So when you take feedback on a shorter cycle, it is easier to implement it because you have not done a major development. Here you have developed all 10 requirements. So you tell to customer all things like, my system is very complex. We have incorporated all 10. If I make changes to one, I'll have to do some impact analysis and all that story. Whereas over here, you don't have to build all that story. You say my system is still simple because I'm working on smaller pieces at a given time. So I will definitely be able to incorporate feedback. So number one
Alongside,
thing,
the stakeholder also will be aware what is happening, right? Yeah.
exactly. So that brings us to the second advantage. The first advantage is the shorter feedback cycle. The second advantage that we get along with it is your customer or your client gets priority. So in that priority, what it means is they are aware of what is happening. They are not sitting idle somewhere waiting for 3 months to pass by and then we will see how our software looks like. So they are not in there for surprise. So now Agile says no more surprises. Let's do things in a faster way. But because we want to do things in a faster way, let's ensure that people are aware. So customer gets priority. They are aware of the progress, and getting back to our first point, they are able to give feedbacks on time.
Roughly small out. For example, suppose if we are working in a waterfall model, so for example, the time period is 3 months. We have committed to the time period is 3 months. If the customer comes in the middle and asks like, we have a small change in the requirement. Do we need, as a, being a business analyst, do we need to accept this one, or we need to deny the? How to deal that situation?
So in waterfall, uh, let me cover the third point which I was going to cover since you asked it. So waterfall is something called as process driven, and agile. Let me write it over here as well. So that is your waterfall versus agile way of doing work is actually people driven. So what it means is in waterfall, when customer comes to you in between, in the middle of your work and says that I want some change in requirement or I want lot of changes in requirement, what you tell the customer immediately that, hey, we have already started coding. So now because we are in the middle of coding, let us evaluate how many requirements you are going to add or change. If it's a very minor thing as in, let's say here you show Google written over here, okay? If you say that just change the color, I don't want white color, I want blue color. If it is just changing color, you know it's a small fix that you can do. You will probably accept it. But if customer says that change the position of the Google, instead of showing it at the middle, show it on the right side, then you know that on right side I already have some tabs or some features available. That means I need to move those to some other place. Where am I going to move it? So in waterfall, you start saying that this will be a lot of change in requirement. We need to write it down, we need to discuss it, then we need to re-estimate, we need to assess where all it will be impacted, and then only we will accept if we are going to do it in the given time frame or not. So you are focusing more on process, whereas in the same scenario, if it comes on to agile, what happens is you are trying to build a small feature. Okay, first of all, you are very less likely to get into an agreement in a disagreement in agile where customer says that move these positions or swap these. But because you are building small features at a time, you are not building the entire product in one shot. Because you are just building small features, it's like building steps. You use stairs to go up. So what you do is you build the first block of stairs, then the second, then the third, and so on. You don't directly build the stairs and then ask for feedback. So similarly in agile, you ask for you start building in a smaller features. So automatically it becomes more people driven. If someone comes to you and asks you, will you be able to do this? Because you are building a small feature at a given time, you will most likely be able to fit in there or accommodate. I'm not saying it will almost be accommodatable. Sometimes the client will ask for too much of changes, which will completely make our feature from simple to, let's say, complex. So in those cases, obviously you will have to say no. That agile doesn't mean that you always say yes, that yes, I'll do it. Yes, it's a small thing. Sometimes the change itself will be big, that you have to say no, or you have to tell the customer that let's work on another story, because we have divided everything into smaller pieces. So let's work on some other story while we try to evaluate what needs to be done here. Okay, so waterfall was more process driven. Any changes that come in between, you tell the customer, let me go back, do the analysis. So business analyst will do analysis. So they will go through all 10 requirements and see if there is any impact or not. Developer also will go through all the 10 requirements. I mean, whatever code they are going to write, whatever design they have, and then identify if the change will cause any impact or not. So even for small changes, you have a big set to look through. Okay, so obviously those analysis will lead to more time or a higher time duration. Whereas in agile, because you are working in smaller features at a time, so you are able to assess quickly. When I say quickly, it is on relative basis. I'm not saying that in waterfall, suppose if you take 16 hours to do analysis, in agile maybe you will take 12 hours. You still have advantage of 4 hours. That may not be quick, but relatively quicker. Your analysis become relatively quicker.
Harsha, Rahul, sorry to cut you. You may need to rewrite the last point. Process driven waterfall is in braces, right? So here people driven have to come out of braces and agile have to go in braces.
Sure, thank you. Now, with this, there is a fourth difference that majorly comes in. So usually there's not lot of focus on this fourth part. But if you tell anyone about the differences on the how the waterfall works versus agile works, who gets priority and how, and what is process driven versus people driven, it will present a good case for you, that you have a fair understanding of the two processes. Now with this also tools changes. So because you have waterfall, and in waterfall you follow a cycle. It's not that in agile you don't follow the cycle, but in waterfall those cycles are much more rigid. That is, you will say, unless my BA has written all the requirements, I will not write the code. First, my BA has to write all the requirements. BA will say that I have written the requirements, but I will not share the document to my developer unless my customer has given sign off. So things are much more rigid. So for maintaining that rigidity, you have you have certain softwares according to it. Okay. Now, a lot of this work used to be done over Excel sheet or PPT, but now with Agile, you don't want to maintain that rigidity. You want to maintain fluidity. Okay. So if my requirement is partially done, or if my customer is reviewing the requirement, so while my customer is reviewing the requirement, I can ask my developer to start with their analysis, not wait for the customer to come up with their sign off as such. So you will see some of the tools, more popular tools that we are going to cover when we start the agile part, like Jira. They are popularly known as ALM tools. So what is ALM? ALM stands for Agile Life Cycle Management. Obviously, as you go into different organizations, every organization may choose to use a different software altogether, may choose a different ALM, but Jira is one of the popular one, and something that is available for free as well. So for people like you and me, it becomes easier to understand how do we track our work, how do we enter our work, how do we ensure that everyone gets the updates on time. So there is a tool change as well for waterfall versus agile. The tools that correspond to waterfall, things like Excel sheet, or project management tools, they are more rigid. They want you to follow a particular cycle. Whereas in Agile, there is a cycle. I'm not saying that you get away with the cycle, but those cycles are more fluid. They help you. They will not, I will not say they will bypass any step, but they tell you to work parallelly. That while my BA works on requirement and getting on, while my BA is working on getting a sign off from the customer, meanwhile my developer can start with their analysis. Okay, so those processes are fluid. It's till now, whatever agile we are going to cover in future class, uh, I'll also share my personal experience that most organizations, they are not purely agile. So agile says a lot of things that needs to be adhered to, but what organizations typically do is they work on a flavor of waterfall plus agile. So they are not 100% agile, but in order to remain competitive, in order to attract more customers, they call themselves agile. But on the surface, the way they work is a mix of waterfall, where they try to maintain documents like create my BRD document, business requirement document, functional requirement, use case documents. So do good amount of documentation, and at the same time call themselves agile as well. So that's the buzzword basically. But there is, I'm not saying we are not 100% agile, but somewhere a mixture of waterfall and agile is what most of the organizations nowadays follow. So far, any questions, guys?
No, Rahul.
Okay, so as we go through the subsequent sections, that is starting tomorrow, what we will try to cover is we will see uh, how some of the common terms mean actually. What is meant by a requirement? What is meant by a deployment? What is meant by a development team software? Now these sessions are more planned towards people who are coming in from non-IT background, so that they understand these terminologies first, so that when we talk about these terms in our subsequent classes or use these terms frequently in our later classes, they don't feel that we are talking about, you know, some alien terms, or that they are not able to understand things. So tomorrow we'll cover some of the basic terms. Now once we go through these basic terms, we will also talk about the software development life cycle. So what is it that most of the organizations follow for developing a software? What's that life cycle looks like? How it starts, how it ends, and what BA will do in each role. Okay, so if we say software development life cycle has 10 phases, I'm just giving a hypothetical number. So what BA will do in each of those 10 phases. Now, along with it, on day 5, you will have your first assignment. That is, I'll share you guys a YouTube video, go through it, prepare some notes. So on day 2, we covered how do we prepare notes. On day 4, we will cover some of the basic terms. So on day 5, when we cover agile and BA role again, so we already covered role of BA over here today. Sorry, on day 2, what BA will do on day-to-day basis. We'll again be covering BA role in detail on day 5, and then you will have your assignment to put down the BA role by listening to that video, listening to our recordings, in and then draft them in notes that we have covered in our day 2.
So tomorrow in requirement you'll be covering BRD, FRD also, Rahul.
Yes, those are the terms. So what do these means? So basically, when someone says BRD, what BRD means? So basically the definition of it, and get an example of it. So once we are done with our day 5, in fact day 6 as well will also be covering basics. Then from day 7, we start talking in detail about these terms like activity diagram, use case diagrams, how do projects come into picture, how do you get the project, how are you called in, how do you identify stakeholders, how do you manage and talk to stakeholders, risk management things, and those type of stuff.
Okay, post that you would elaborate on this BRD and all, is it?
Yes, yes, we will go through how the BRDs will go through a template of BRD, how the template works, how the information is captured, and once that information is captured, how do you share it? And then we'll also look at elicitation techniques. So covering BRD alone is not enough. So I can show you the template and be done with the class in one day, basically 1 hour. But the intention is you have to fill in the contents of the BRD as well. So some of the contents are pretty simple, like providing the overview of the project, providing description of people involved. But then there are some of the concepts like how do you display what the current process is, what the future process is going to be, how do you get requirements from the customer, because only when you get requirements from the customer you will be able to put in that information. So we'll go through elicitation techniques or gathering requirements. So what are the different techniques you can use to get more details from the customer? Once you get detail, once you have all the detail in front of you, it is easy to fill in the document.
Got it. But I mean, organization to organization, that might be in a different format, right? Though the information might be same.
Yes, so your template may differ, but the
Mm.
major idea or the major points that you are going to capture remains consistent from organization to organization. Now, some may say that if you have 6 sections in BRD, some may say
Mm.
that let's have 7 sections, let's have one additional section. But that one additional section will not impact your work because you already have the required set of information in front of you. So when you
Got
have
it.
all the information in front of you, it's a matter of putting in the different section. So we'll cover that. We'll gather all those information. So once we put in the information, then we will revisit our BRD at the end. So we'll go through the BRD at the starting, understand the template that mostly organizations try to cover, then go through different topics, get more information, and then again revisit the BRD to fill in that to fill in the information now.
Got it. Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Uh, Rahul, I'm Abhinav. Today is my first class actually. So I don't know, is this the right forum to ask questions on, I mean, how to, I mean, what will be the future of business analyst if I opt this program? So, or will that be a one-to-one session later after this call, or can I discuss in the same call?
You can discuss in the same call. So I think you are covering the third day of the demo. So
Yeah.
we discussed this on the first day.
Mm-hmm.
So let me open that sheet.
Meanwhile, I'll just introduce about myself. So, Rahul, I am from commerce background. I have done MBA and I've got 10 years of work experience, and I've got experience into banking as well as IT. Oh, I worked with HSBC in commercial lending process. You can say the back end wire transfer project. Project, and later on I got opportunity to work in a um, so other company wherein I got into this manual testing project wherein I worked there for 5 years, and currently I am into infrastructure support wherein I am working as my role is a project manager and coordinating with the stakeholders for server upgrades and all.
Okay. So
Yeah.
basically, you are asking like if I have to switch from a project manager to BA or business analyst, how the career prospects look like.
Mhm. And what all certifications I need to take up?
Yes. So these are the two questions that you are asking. So on the certifications, so the majorly recognized one or the most famous one I would say is the one that is offered by the IIBA. So they have three levels of certifications: ECBA, CCBA, and CBAP. So I've written against them. ECBA is entry level, CCBA is your a medium, you can call it. So with your work experience, like if you gain 5 to 6 years of work experience as BA, you can definitely appear for CCBA. And then CBAP is for professional certifications, that business analyst professional, where you demonstrate that you have a sound working knowledge of building a software or building an application on your own. So when I say building an application, it doesn't mean coding wise, but from the requirement perspective. Because in organizations, usually you will work on, as you're already working on as a project manager, so you will understand that you'll have not just one BA, but two, three BAs or two, three teams that are trying to work on one common project. So you'll be working on one piece at a time. So these are your certifications. You have entry level, mid level, and then the professional level that you can opt depending on your experience. Usually for entry level, there is no experience criteria. As soon as you are done with the course that we are going through, you should be able to appear for your ECBA certification. For mid level and professional, I usually recommend people to have some practical hands on, because once you have some practical exposure, there will be some tricky questions as well. So if you have a working experience that no one can obviously teach you in a class, you will be able to clear these two certifications if you have good working knowledge. Or the second option would be that you opt for courses that talks about the business analyst in detail. Okay, so like we have advanced courses as well that you can go in for these two certifications. Now, on the second question of, or on the first question of career growth, usually the waterfall industries, they work in this model. So there is a business analyst with a relatively lesser amount of experience. Then as you gain experience, you become a senior business analyst. And then eventually with your knowledge and more experience, you become a lead for your business analyst. Okay, a team of business analysts that you lead. So you guide them, you mentor them, you coach them as lead for your entire team. You also resolve their doubts on day-to-day basis. Now when we switch to agile, things changed slightly. So now you started calling these people product owner. So where we took an example. Okay, for example, in a health insurance, what a product owner is usually doing is, a health insurance domain can have multiple applications within them. Each application will have one product owner or the lead product owner who will actually look after that entire application. Like there will be one lead product owner for the entire enrollment for health insurance. All the people who want to enroll for health insurance, they will go through the enrollment application. So on the surface, any software that you see, for us as a customer, it looks like as one software. Okay, we don't see it in different pieces, but because you have IT experience, so you'll know that uh, on the surface, even though it looks like as one software, but behind the scenes we have different sub applications within it that are working together. So all these sub applications, like for health insurance, we have a product, we have a marketing team, we have sales team, we have enrollment team. So they all use different softwares or sub applications. So all these sub applications will have their own lead product owners. All these lead product owners will then will be leading a team of product owners. Now these product owners can again further be handling work within that sub application. So for example, let's say you want to enroll people into health insurance policies. You can do it via files, you can do it via online, you can have certain softwares that are used by your employees or brokers or agents. So now you can have one product owner that handles each of these processes. They becomes an expert. So they look after that product design, and they all will eventually report to someone that's sitting over here as lead PO. Now you will keep on hearing terms like a product owner, a lead for those product owners more often in the agile world. So that's how your eventual, now obviously with as lead BA or product owner, you obviously have an option of becoming an SME, a subject matter expert in either cases. Not just over here, but in either cases.
Okay, Rahul. And what about the certification cost, Rahul? I mean, USD
I think
dollars, CCPA.
I'll have to just a minute. I know in Indian rupee terms it costs somewhere around 14 to 18,000.
And yeah. Though I'm yeah, and Rahul just wanted to make clear. Though my designation is a project manager, I'm not doing performing the activities of the exact project manager, like budgeting, resource management, and planning and all sorts of things. I am just coordinating with the stakeholders to in order to get certain tasks to get completed by coordinating with the developers and the testers. Yeah.
Okay. So that is something that you will continue to do as business analyst as well.
Yeah. Okay, Rahul. And just wanted to know, Rahul, I mean, what's the current salary range for the business analyst who have got 5 years of experience?
In India, you are asking?
Yes, yes, in India only. And my current package is for 10 years experience is very low. It's 11 lakhs. So can I expect around 18 lakhs also? I mean, can I expect 100% hike, 70% hike by doing opting this program and they acquiring this those certificates?
So
Hi
to be
Rahul, if you
honest with
don't
you,
mind, can I take this question?
yeah,
I work as HR in Eurofins. I take care of offer management, so I thought I will be able to answer this. So
sure,
Abhinav, to
sure, go
answer
ahead.
your question, the BAs that we offer in Eurofins, Associate Business Analyst, is above 15 lakhs. That is the minimum.
Okay, good to
So
know.
as you're saying 18, right? Yeah, it's all about how we perform. That's it. With the years of
Okay.
experience you carry, you can certainly get that. About 20 also depends on the organization. If you're
Okay.
exclusively targeting the product-based companies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. And also, Rahul, I mean, in the market currently for the same program, there are, I mean, institutes where the program duration is 6 months of time, 6 months to 1 year, and ours is, I think, 2 months duration, 2 to 2.5 months. So, I mean, how different is it? I mean, uh, yeah, that's what. Yeah.
So see, I believe anyone can, go through the definition part or the theoretical aspects. So obviously the 6 months training program, it's not that they are going to teach you something extraordinary, but what typically happens is they make you go through a lot of theoretical stuff as well, definition kind of things. But what truly happens is when you join or go for any training program, your intention is not to go through the definitions. Your intention is to learn about the stuff, how it happens practically in the industry, someone
Yes.
who is working on it, how it happens. now we have Chat GPT, Google, so you can go through the actual definition, what it means, the technical part of it. So they will spend, I'm not saying I'm not against them, but they will spend a lot of time going on the theoretical aspect first. Similarly, if you look at CSPO programs, the Certified Scrum Product Owner programs, they are for 2 days only. So you attend them for 2 days, that is 16 hours program, 8 hours day one, 8 hours day two. And then at the end of 16 hours, you are eligible to take the certification exam. So you don't even have to spend 6 months if you want to appear for a CSPO certification.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much,
Thanks, Rahul.
Rahul.
Yeah,
For the time being, whatever I have attended your session, right, it is very crisp and you're patient enough to clarify all our doubts. Not like if someone is asking, we have to tell them what it is and leave. But you're going in depth and deep into the subject and making us understand. Thanks for that.